Let me go up here to this first slide. And then I'll be back on slide 3 again for a moment in case we have anybody that still needs a few moments with that. So welcome. My name is Marley Knapp. I am a digital learning lead coach with Uwari Charter Academy. We are in the Asheboro area. And I've been really getting big into this personalized learning thing where we want to profile our students. That was a session that I gave yesterday. It's kind of a good lead into this one. So if you're interested in that information about how to profile your kids and get the information you need to determine their needs and their passions and their interests to use with choice boards, feel free to go see that recorded session when they're posted. And then I wanted to lead into how do we make our choice boards have a purpose? Instead of just giving them a choice, how do we focus on our students' needs and drive that choice board to still give them the choices they need and that power, but we're driving it based on their needs so we can kind of make sure our students with needs are getting what they need out of that choice board. If you haven't downloaded the Performance Matters app, it's here. There's a link here on slide 2 to that app. So that you can use it to scan the code at the end of our session or end of any session. So you're probably already used to that, but there is the link just in case. So here we are. Here's my information if you need it, my email and my Twitter account. I have to be full disclosure, I have not been tweeting much lately. I need to get back on my tweeting game again. And once again, the link to the presentation, which will be on every slide. And then over here, a link to our Padlet. So if you hadn't had a chance yet to jump on the Padlet, and tell me who you are, where you are, what you do, which cat are you today, and something excited you did this summer or you'll do before school starts. And you want to click on the picture, you can get a bigger view of the picture so you can see the cats better. So in the Padlet looks like this. Remember that slide's on slide number 3. So I'm looking through, look, I got a lot of cat 3s, some cat 6 and 8, 9, 3, someone hates cats. You are not a cat at all, right, Caitlin? Cat 8. Someone picked a cat 4. Nobody picked a cat 4, and I was wondering to see if anybody would pick the cool diva cat number 4. I was not relaxed enough to be the diva cat this week. I think I'm still a 3. See a lot of cat 3s. I see a few 9s. And I look forward to go back and looking through more about who you were and where you're coming from and what you do. I'll look back at those. And this Padlet will be available to be used for several weeks. It'll be linked from our questions document. So in the background, if you want to keep kind of filling that in while we just look at a little bit more, there's one more little fun activity we're going to do really quick, which involves another link to another page. This is just for some fun here. Take a look at this cat. And don't even think about it. Just share your song. What is this cat singing? Don't think about it. Just the first song that pops in your head. And we're going to vote on we're going to share that on the dot storming page. Let me go to that dot storming page for a moment. So you're going to be able to add your name in to participate. You can be anonymous if you like. You can just put an anonymous name and you can go ahead and put your name, just first name if you want. So you'll add yourself in and then you'll be able to click a card and living on a prayer and throw in there a card for what song pops into your head first when you see that cat. And then we can go back and you have 3 votes to pick some other favorites that people shared. So let everybody get cards up there and then go back and pick some of your favorites from the ones that the other people shared. So we'll let you play with that for a moment. I'm going to put the picture of the cat back up again. So what is this cat singing right now? And my vote was up there first. I put I'm the one that put This Is Me from the Greatest Showman soundtrack. I'm loving these pics. I'm loving seeing these. I'm going to bring that page back up. I want people to have a moment to look at the cat, but it's also on slide 4. Somebody shared this picture with me the other day, and I was like, okay, I cannot wait to share this with everybody during the session today. So if you're just jumping on, the link to the slides are at the bottom of every slide. So you can jump on the slides, and we are on slide 4 at the moment. And I think I'll put the link to the slides in the chat one more time. So let's see how it's going. Who let the dogs out? And I notice we're getting some votes. All by myself is definitely winning at the moment. And you can vote for 3 if you want to. So keep adding. All right, and feel free to use the chat to shout out if you're having any issues, like you can't get the links to pop up or still need to get to the slides. Everything you'll need is in the slideshow. All the links will be from that slideshow, and we also have a question document that will have all the links as well. So it'll take just a couple more minutes to let everybody have a chance to put their song in that they think this cat is singing. Can you tell I'm a fan of cats? And one of my other friends that is a big cat fan shared this with me. So I was like, this is great. I can't wait to use this. Let's go back to the dot storming. Okay, anybody still need a minute to add their song in? And don't forget to vote. I'm going to have to do my votes. I'm kind of liking the I Will Survive. I'm digging the All By Myself as well, and Bohemian Rhapsody. But it looks like All By Myself is definitely winning at the moment. Anybody need to add a new card still to tell us what this cat is singing? Okay, so if you're willing to share that you were the one that picked All By Myself, shout it out in the chat and say, that was me. You don't have to if you don't want to. But if you're the All By Myself card maker, shout it out and let us know. Oh, Sheena. Good call. I just thought this would be something fun to do, kind of get us started. And of course, you have the slide, so you're welcome to copy that picture anytime you need to share. I'm not sure where my friend got it from, but you're a genius. Oh, this is really fun. Okay, so I want to have something fun to do. So, and I know yesterday there was some weird confusion. Some of the nieces were noting the wrong times for our sessions. We are here from 12:30 to 1:50. Does that sound right for everybody? Some people had some confusion yesterday as to one of the nieces entries made it sound like it was only a 50 session, it's like 50-minute session. So definitely want to make sure everybody was feeling good about the times. All right, well, I'm going to jump on. We'll go back and check and see if there's any other cat votes in a little while if we need to. Let me jump on and talk about what learning competencies we're going to hit today with this session. And I'm sure you're getting familiar with this because I'm sure everybody has been sharing this. I'm going to click this. This link will click you to the competencies if you needed to see them too. But we're going to hit a lot of these. And by the time you're done, if you've been going to several sessions today, you're probably hitting all of these. You're going to be familiar and have addressed them all. In the leadership, we're definitely going to be hitting 1, 2, 5 for sure, and maybe even some of number 4. And number three, there might be some here in the digital citizenship we're kind of in hitting, depending on what you choose to do with your choice boards. Um, Digital content instruction, we're pretty much hitting nearly everything. Definitely technology enriched learning experiences, leading the students to becoming active participants and setting their goals. That's going to be a real important part of these. Immerse students in and relevant issues might hit. Definitely evaluating digital tools you want to use, and modify form and function of the physical learning environment. So we're pretty much hitting everything here and nearly everything here in data and assessment, because a choice board is a form of assessment, and you're going to be using that to go forward when you create these choice boards. And it's like, we're going to talk a little bit about what is it um, we want to do with our choice board to continue with our competency progression and follow through and make sure our children are meeting their standards. And let's talk about what the why is. I feel like the choice boards with a purpose allows the students to get down to their own learning experience, but it's going to still give you some control over how you deliver that to the children. If you need to do some things that help make the children that have specific needs focus on their needs, you've got ways that you can take that choice board and really focus on students' needs in specific groups of kids, certain kids in this type of group, and the high groups, the low groups, the middle groups, all kinds of different ways you group your children. And those goal setting up to opportunities for the kids give them a voice, and it'll foster that accomplishments towards the competency based progression. So let's talk a bit about what's your why. And back on the Padlet, I've got a second column, and you may have already filled this in. What is your why? Like at the bottom, I put that my why is that differentiation. I would like my students' learning to be enhanced by the way I design and deliver the choice boards so they can set their goals and grow. And so we see some people already starting to share control of their choices, same thing. Students the opportunity to take control of their learning. Everybody's kind of dittoing this, that we want our students to be able to have control on their choices. And then we do that choice board with a purpose. It gives you a chance to have control as well. And we'll talk a little bit about the ways that we have in the past used our power as a teacher for what's called must do's. You might have heard that before, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But on slide 6 is the link back to the Padlet again, and tell us, what is your why? And what is it that made you want to jump in and take this session today? So we'll give just a minute or so to let everybody work on that. Okay, you may have any particular questions so far? Or are they starting to get that info in there? I'm giving you a lot of tasks to start off. Sorry. So far, we've already given you 3 tasks to do. All right, let's talk a little bit about main parts of a choice board. Choices for sure, but within that, creating the must do's. Those are the things that the students must make sure they do. They get a choice, but at the same time, you have something in there where you've told them, I need you at least to do this and then choose from these others. And that must do task is something that you've designed that all the students need to do, or a particular group of students may need to do a particular part of that choice board, and you need to tell them, red group or group 3, I want to show and make sure y'all do top row, and then you choose from the rest, because the top row you have designed specifically for them. The tasks are for them. So that's what kind of like the must do philosophy comes in. And you want it to be pretty easy to navigate layout. And then once they've completed their tasks, try to consider maybe some rewards or some kind of positives for those students once they've completed certain tasks or the entire choice board of the choices that they were expected to do. So these are kind of like some of the main parts I've considered as a choice board. All right, so more questions, sorry. One thing at the bottom right here, there's a link to a document that's right here that is a questions document. So when you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat. I'm going to try to add a link to the chat transcript here as well, so you can actually go look at our transcript as well. But most everything will be in the files that and the links that pop up. But you can put your question on the left, and I'll be happy to go back and make sure I have it answered on the right side. And you can come back at any time to see if when your question got answered. So that document's ready to go, and all of the links to all of the different places that we bounced out to are here. Our Padlet's here, Answer Garden, we're going to look at it in just a moment. Dot stormings, 2 different dot stormings. We're going to do a different one in a little bit, and then the chat transcript. So that document's ready to roll whenever you need it. And also, I'm going to have you use Answer Garden. I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen Answer Garden before. I love this little resource. Answer this particular question. What subject or topic have you used when creating a choice board or would like to use for creating a board? Some kind of content area, subject, topic. So that will be in the Answer Garden. So once you type it and hit submit, it'll begin to form a word cloud. I'm going to hit return. And it's been really slow this week refreshing. So let's see if it will refresh quickly. I'll keep refreshing it so we can all kind of see what's popping up on the word cloud. And as you hit submit, you'll see the word cloud as well. It's been a tiny bit slow. So let's give it a moment to pop up. And I'll give you, let's take 2 or 3 minutes just to let you have a moment to get to the Answer Garden and fill in some information. So slide 8 is where that is. All right, we're getting there. I'm going to refresh again in a moment. There, we're starting to see some science, autism. I like that. Math and reading, lots of math and reading, vocab, severe weather. That would be really cool. Literature, writing, phonics skills. Students to practice. I would love to hear more about your thoughts on that. I wonder if you're meaning that practicing a particular content skill or actually just practicing using some tools. Because sometimes it's hard to introduce all these new resources, these digital tools that we keep sharing with our children, and they're not quite sure how to use them. A choice board is a great chance for them to practice using a tool with just a simple task, like using this Answer Garden or using Padlet, and just getting used to using the tool. And then the ones who chose particular resources can share with the others how they did it, what they learned about it. So then all the kids can learn about those resources. And I'll talk more about that whole concept of children using a choice and then going back and sharing what they learned so that others can gather that info as well. I'm going to refresh it one more time, and then we'll scoot on to the next section. And it goes refreshing a little bit. So a couple people have said writing prompts. That's why it popped up bigger in science and these as well. And sometimes I think if you click on this, you can actually repost to that same one. If you're dittoing what someone's saying, you can actually like click it and add it up here and hit submit and add it as yours as well. So you can really boost them up and get more and more. So when you see it bigger, that means more people have chosen that same thing. There's the choice-based projects. Aesop's Fables, love that. Poetry. And it's like anything you want to put content-wise into a choice board, and no matter what grade level, it applies to everybody. Because you can design the tasks any way you need to. The choice board is just a shell, and the way you design it is the next step, and then what you put in for the tasks is the important part. So let's go in and explore some different kinds of choice boards that we've done with some of our teachers in our school in different ways that you might see them. So the first one would be more of like what's called a playlist. Some people call it a contract, just a simple list of tasks to do. Here's an example. Let me go back down here to another tab. Here's an example of, let me scoot this over a little. A simple playlist that one of our social studies teachers did, a fifth grade social studies teachers in our district did, just real simple. It's been a while. She used this a long time ago, but she still kind of tweaks it and uses it. Just task after task. One thing to do, the next thing to do, next thing to do. You can adjust it if you need to into a different order, or you can tell certain groups of kids that have a particular need that they don't have to do number 1 or 3, or you need them to make sure they focus on number 2, 4, 6 and something else. So you can tweak it up, or you can actually duplicate a second playlist for those particular students and only deliver it to those students. And then a different group of students may have it. And so the secondary one you duplicated is a few tweaks based on the needs for those students. So just a real simple way. It's might not even be officially what you might consider a choice board. You could tell the children that they don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order. They can choose what order they want to go in. I sat in on a class one time that a science teacher was working with her whole class, and for several days they had a project going on within the classroom, and there were 11 different tasks that need to be done, and it was almost like a station, just kind of like stations, and they went around and they had to cover all 11, but they could choose any way, time, shape, or form that they wanted to cover those. So that would give them first their choice for sure, and their goal setting that they needed. One of them may have been a harder task, and they decided, I'm going to make that my goal for the end, and I'm going to get these other ones done first. So for several days, they were going, just moving about the room, completing all the tasks that needed to be done, and they would either check off something, or they had a place where they would show that they've completed it. Different ways for you to have the students show that they've completed it as well. Here's another option, was the contract. So the students, as they're doing them, check off. This is designed by day, but you may design it so that you don't use the days and tell them to pick it as they need and check it off. And different tasks may take on a different life with the children. Might be some of them could be done with a partner, some of them would be done individually, or they could choose to do it that way. They might say, I want to do this one with a partner, but this one I need to do alone. There's all kinds of different ways. It's all about what you want for your students. So that's just your most basic concept. There's a couple of neat little resources right here for creating this concept of just tasks and the order that they do them. HyperDocs, if you've never heard of HyperDocs, it's really cool. This is a website that I have an example of a HyperDoc I'll show you in a minute, but this website has got samples of these pre-created templates made in Google Docs or Google Slides that just have a way for you to set up everything you need the students to do, including resources you might need them to have, like a link they may need to go to, or a picture they may need to look at, or a video they may need to watch. You can have that in the document, and then the tasks over to the right side with what they need to do. And it's a really nice way to organize your tasks for your students. They're so cool. It's a simple concept, but it's so powerful. Quizalize is a really cool tool. This one is a website that you can set up an account for your students to have a way to log in. And you can set up a quiz for them, and then you can set up different tasks based on how they perform on the quiz. So when they finish the quiz, it will automatically send them to the proper task. So it might be differentiating based on that. And it might not be such as much as a choice, but it's a really neat way to hone kids into the right place they need to be based on performance. So I just think that Quizalize is a really cool tool. Other options are passport journeys. This is kind of like the contract idea. I've got a few sample ones here. There's a really cool one from Slides Mania that I like. Two of them are electronic and one of them is a printable, because I'm showing you a lot of electronic things today, but there's nothing that says you can't do some of these playlists in paper. And I'll talk a little more about that later. They don't always have to be in electronic mode. In an electronic mode, that gives the kids the opportunity to complete them in the electronic format, like a Google slide or a document, or you might want it on paper. So I've got some cool, this cute one from, actually, I've got this on the next page. I liked this one from Slides Mania. This is very simple. It's not little cutesy and kidsy. There's a lot of those out there if you just kind of search online. But you can put the child's information here or let them put their own information, some directions, and then each page has the different location. And you can decide on how you want to give them their stamp or badge or however you want to indicate that they've completed it. So I just thought this one was a nice little template. There are a couple others here too. There's one from Slides Go that's a little more fun looking. Let's go to that one. And you should be able to change like the text on most of them so you can make it yours. And this one has a different look to it. And it has little stamps, but you can create your own stamps. And I bet there are a ton of stamp style things online that you can go and obtain that look like these, but are designed for one of your tasks. So there's a lot of cool little passports out there to do. And one thing that's cool about the passports is, let's assume that each place they go might be a little bit different in the content that you give to them. It could be all your tasks are related to the same content, just different tasks, or it could be your tasks have a little bit different content from the places that they go. When they're done, they can come back and share what they learned about their particular location or destination that the other students may not have seen. So you can have a sharing place so the other students can absorb that information. And once again, you can differentiate. You can have some must-dos that they must do. They must go visit this land or this destination, and then they can choose from the others. And then you can color code things. I'll get to talk more about color coding. Certain groups may be focused on a certain color, and you used to say, you've got to do at least this color, and then you can go choose from others. So you can get your must-dos in there and then move on to let them choose from the others. Any questions so far? We'll stop and have a little breather and question moment. And I'll check the question document, see if anybody's added anything. Another option, and this is kind of similar to the playlist, but it's a pathway. And this is that thing I was talking about where the students branch out and take on a different area of a content, and then they come back together and share it, and everybody explores what was shared so they can gather all of the content. So the students aren't missing any content. They're just focusing on what they chose, and then they get to see the rest. Here's a sample of a, I think I put it on this side, of a playlist. So the difference is playlist is more choice. And a pathway is more choice than the playlist. This is an activity we did on the real first Thanksgiving with our third graders. They had some websites to explore. And sadly, one of these websites is having to be revamped because it was Flash, which is gone now. They could choose between the turkey, the pilgrim, and the Wampanoag because they were learning about all three characters, factors, people in that time, but they would pick which one they wanted. And each one was a little picture that they had to find some information about. So they could choose which one they wanted. And this was on paper. They went to get their paper from their teacher, and they filled it out and handed it back to their teacher. And we took pictures of each one they handed in and put it in a Padlet. And they took a virtual gallery walk. So they would go, if they learned about turkey, then they needed to go to and we don't have all the Padlets up here right now. We just have the turkey Padlet up. But if they learned about pilgrims, then they needed to go to the turkey and the Wampanoag Padlet to do the task. They had to select the two they didn't investigate, view some of the pictures that were shared. So we took the pictures and put them in the Padlet for the kids, and they would go and look, and then they would comment and respond, and they would put, I like, I didn't realize, and I wonder. And I wonder question could be about anything that you might have explored on the website. It's not just that turkey or pink pilgrim. And then you can add your response. You can put comments on underneath it. Here's a little quick look at what the turkey Padlet looks like. And then we just got started, and then COVID not COVID wasn't at this time, but the time windows were killing us. We wound up not being able to completely finish. We got started a little bit. So we had like one of the turkeys up there, and they can click it and look at it, and then they can add more about it, add their info. So they all would go on to the two Padlets that they did not explore and learn a little more about the other two. So that was like spread out to learn, come back and share, and then go and learn. And then we were going to have an I wonder section where we had a Padlet where they can talk about each other's I wonder questions and investigate those a little bit further. We didn't quite get to finish. We had everything put together. We didn't quite get to finish the activity. But this is this concept of where branch out to learn, come back and share, get together and explore. And then you might even have a second time where you branch out to learn. So you give them different content that they're going to share later. So that's kind of what like a learning pathway is compared to a playlist. And that was that hyperdoc that I was telling you about. That was done in a hyperdoc. All right. Another great one, of course, we've seen a lot of these, is the Tic Tac Toe concept. Or you can do other zone styles where they have to go to a particular zone of the board to complete. So you can get strategic about the way you put your tasks so you can determine what are your must-dos and what are your choices for the kids. And if you need to have two areas that are must-dos for different groups of children. So I've got a sample of our, like an English language arts and a math choice board. Here is our math one. So we kind of designed it so that we haven't quite finished it. Different tasks in each place on the board. And up at the top, the instructions tell them they select two rows. You can go diagonal, up, down, left, or right. One of your rows has got to include the center space. So the center space is the must do. That this particular situation, they needed to work on math facts. So everybody had to pick something that went through the center space. And then when you choose your rows, make sure you've got all 5 types, because we had something based on adding and subtracting, multiplication, the math facts, the word problems, and the rounding. And we noticed like this add and subtract is a little bit different from this one. This one's a little bit tougher task than this one. So my students that struggle, I might say, group 1, because usually we had them kind of grouped out. Group 1, you need to make sure you at least pick the top row, and then you can pick any other row you want that goes through the center. And that kind of, the way we laid them out, we made it so that they're going to hit all 5. They might hit this task again, and they just don't have to do it. I told them, if you see 2 pluses in your 2 rows, just do 1. But one particular group had to do, their must do was to do row 1. So that's kind of how we got it laid out and designed it. And it takes a little while to get them together and think through the tasks you're going to do and the way you're going to differentiate those tasks, especially if you need to give kids must-dos. That was one of the ways. Here is, this is empty. This is just a template of English language arts, same kind of concept. Same expectations. The read to self was, of course, everybody had to do that one. That was a must-do. And then they had to make sure they got at least the other 5 tasks in by picking 2 rows. I think we got it mapped out to where if they picked 2 rows, they were going to hit all 5 up here so they could check them off. And they could actually check them off. And in some cases, let me go back to the math one, they actually would put that they completed it, or maybe even add a link to something that they, like a screenshot they might have taken or a video they might have taken. They might have needed a little help with that task. We're trying to front load them with how to do that ahead of time. They knew how to share a link to something. So they have the place in here to put that information. And if you do things like that hyperdoc, either in Google Slides or in Google Doc, there's a lot of space for them to share their answers there. And you can do everything in that document, and all your assessing of the children can be done in there too. You can even stick a rubric in that document. There's a lot of space there to do all kinds of stuff. These short boards, maybe not as much space. They may have to have another way of showing you evidence. All righty, let's go to a couple more. Color coding, which is great, because when you have specific groups, you can tell them that they must do a certain color. So one particular group of students must do this color, and you can kind of change the groups into colors. So you can say, hey, if you're red group, you need to do red one, and then pick some others. And that might be a little way of making sure it's not so obvious that you're differentiating. You're just giving them different things based on their group, and they might not know the ways that they are grouped. So I've got a couple there. And once again, not finished because this last year was so crazy that we would get started with them. Oh, wait, here it is. We would get started with them and then not be able to finish them. So we've got them kind of started. This is our vocab one. So these are the tasks. And then below, we had them kind of thinking 3 things I learned from this session, something I want to share, my goals. And so we'd fill this out before they kind of started their session. So we kind of had them working on this throughout the process. This might be something they'd spent a couple of days on, or maybe more than a couple of days. That depends on your age group. But there was a different color for each one. So in this situation, they might have to do a particular color first. And some of them duplicated, like orange might be one type of activity similar to the blue, but they're a little bit different level of what they had to do. So tell the students, pick that, you do at least your color, and then you can pick whatever else you want because their color was designed for them. And then we had different tasks. Like this particular one was, they could do this right here on in the document. They were highlighting um, context clues. And this one, visual vocab, they could fill that in right in the document. This could all be done within this document. And then working on a particular, we use iReady, so we were working on a particular iReady activity. And we just didn't quite get all the tasks in this one. Here's a 3rd grade math one. So we had a little bit different things for working with the colors and the different things. Like we were going to put another area activity here and another multiplication facts activity here that are a little bit different level than these. So that was based on the colors. This particular activity is cool. We decided we make that where the game boards they pulled up were different colored based on their color. So if the activities were done with 3 different levels and we had 3 different groups, so they picked out their color game board, which was a little different for each group of children. So that's like color coding type of things you can do. And I think that's the bulk of everything, shouldn't you? And when you share them with your students, do it any way you like. You can print things and they check them off as they complete them and have a way of showing you that evidence another way, or you can make them electronic, like some of these you saw in Google Slides, Google Docs, other type of resource websites they may go to. Use your learning management system to deliver them, Google Classroom, Canvas, and such. Some of the tasks are completed directly in that document. You might email them to the students and then they have to complete it and email it back. Depends on if you use an LMS and which one you use as to how you want to send them and deliver that information to them and have them give it back to you. Any particular questions? Let me jump down to the questions for a second and I'll go look at the questions document, see if anybody's added anything. Nothing yet. Feel free to put any questions in here, or if you would like to, just unmute and shout out your question. And I'll get to this right here in a moment, but if you've got some questions, throw them in the document. And right now there's some templates. There's a link to a folder I have of some choice board templates. Some of them are what we just looked at and some of them are some other ones. There's a cool little choice board here from Matt Miller, some cool ones from Slides Mania. Let's take, I'm going to put a timer on. Oh, here's a good question from Darla. How long should a choice board last? And that is totally up to you. Some people make it only a couple of days. And then you notice that one of those contracts was every day of the week, something they had to complete. There's a teacher that I need to actually add in here a link somewhere to one of the teacher does. It was just a little grid, 8 by 11. She did it in paper, and it had tasks on it that she would usually go about 3 days with those. And sometimes she would give them the entire week, and it's just during station time was when they went in and worked on them. So they got a little bit of time each day to jump around to the different choices, and she spent the whole week. Some of it might just be a day. It might just be that class period and you've designed the choices to move quickly, but they needed to pick them out of that. So it really varies on what kind of content you're using, what age group you have, and how long do you think it would take for the tasks that you design? So that's a good question, Darla, but that's kind of our thoughts on it. It really does vary based on your needs and what you want to do for the children. Has anybody else, you can feel free to jump into the chat and answer that question yourself. How long have you spent with the choice board with your students? Jump on in and add that to the chat if you have an answer for a question. And then I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to set one on my phone here to to let us just have some time to explore, play around with those templates and look around. And at the same time, if you've got a question, answer for dollars question about how long you tend to do your choice boards for, answer that in the chat. Cool. Thank you, Kim. Yeah, if you think about it, tell what grade level you teach, and that would help with the help people understanding how long you use. And is it Koza? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Um, you're asking how you should interact with my slides.
Yes.
Okay. Let's say if you're in this choice board template folder, let me jump over there, which I do believe I thought I had up in here. Maybe it's up here. And you want to know if you want to kind of keep one of these. Let's say you select this one and you like it. You should be able to view it and see it in view mode. At that point, just go to the file menu and choose make a copy, and it will put it into your Google Drive. Is there anybody that is Microsoft that has OneDrive instead of Google? If that is the case, just do download as a PowerPoint or Google Doc, depending on what kind of, or it'll Google Docs will download as Word, and the Google Slides will download as PowerPoint. Download it to your computer, and then you can upload it back into your OneDrive. So you've got two options there. So you get just file menu, make a copy, or download, and then you can have it for yourself, and it'll be in edit mode at that point. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, in this folder has got several in there. Some of the ones I already showed you, and then there's some new ones in there too. And of course, there's so many online. I'm always searching for them. A lot of them I come across are teachers pay teachers. So if you're interested in paying for one, sometimes they put some really good stuff together. So you can always get them from them. But sometimes I find just good ones in general. Slides Mania and Slides Go I have found to be a great resource to find great templates in the Google Slides format or PowerPoint. So got a few more minutes. We'll just have to keep on playing for a little bit longer. I'm just looking through all the places where people have shared. Okay, that's time. Anybody feel like they want a few more minutes? You can shout out yes on the chat if you feel like you want a few more minutes. Or if you're feeling like you're good, we'll jump onto another area to. I want to have you guys vote for something. So next page, do another vote. We're going to do a different dot storming page, and we're going to vote. This one you won't add any cards like you did with the cat, what the cat was singing. You'll just vote in this particular dot storming page, and tell us what was your favorite from the different choice board styles we just discovered. I've already got them up here. Let me go to it. So I've got color coded, passport journey, tic tac toe, pathways, playlists. Oh, and let me back up just a moment. I did forget to show somebody something up here, and someone was able to add it and share it. Under the tic tac toe, I forgot to mention game board templates. Let me jump to that for just a moment. Game boards where you can have it branch off. And so instead of a zone with rows, you could have branching with game board templates. So I've got like a little template like here. I think it's on this page. This is kind of one I started putting together, which you can kind of go straight to a game board for the kids, and different tasks will go in those game spaces. Or you can even say choice or chance. They can spin and jump to the choice that the spinner came up, or they can do choice and just pick one, or they can do chance and spin and go to whatever board game was the spinner shows, and the spinner is like a little tab that'll pop up separately. And each of these are linked to one of the slides on the slideshow. Or they can go chance. They can chance and use the spinner, or choice and just go ahead and pick one. And they jump to different little types of board games. So you can kind of have choice, and you can kind of spur them off and have different things. And these you can have must-dos. You can go ahead and say, this particular group of students, I really need you to do board number 6 on slide 6. So I put like 6 different kinds of boards. And then you could just decide to make an activity with just one of these boards. So you got a bunch of different boards to choose from here. Some of these I got from some cool websites online. Some of them I found from a little free site. And just for you guys as the teacher, these are editable down here. Underneath editable, you can take these boards and tweak them and change them up. Change the markers, change some different things, change your instructions. So down here you have the option. And then what I wound up doing was, when I've got this the way I want it, minus the markers, anything movable I wouldn't put on here yet, I export this as a picture, go back into the place where I'm going to share it with the kids, and put that picture as the background. And then that way they can't accidentally move this stuff, and only the things you want them to move, add that later. Does that make a lot of sense? Does anybody need me to share that again? Because that's how I kind of did it here. I got the boards ready, and these are movable right now. But when the kids are moving and playing, they'll move the pieces all around by accident. So get this, and maybe even the tasks that you expect them to do, in place. Maybe not a link, but just tasks. And then you go up to the file menu and say, download JPEG, and it'll take just that slide and export it as a picture. And then you go back in and make a new slide and tell it background, choose image, and pick that picture. It'll become the background. That's would leave it so kids can't move anything. So if you look up here, they can't move any of this stuff. They can just move their markers around. And then I might add the tasks then, or I might have the task added before I make it a picture, depending on if it's worded or if it links to something. And then the things they move and click are the links here, and the markers to drag them so they can play the game. And they use the spinner to play the game. And so you could strategically place your tasks based on where they land. And for your kids that are differentiated, it could be you've designed the tasks for on different colors. And if they land on a certain color and it's not their kind of task, tell them, if you're an orange group and you land on orange, jump ahead one and do that task instead. Because the orange might not have been their kind of task. So there's lots of ways to differentiate within these little board games. So this is just something fun for you to have, and you can copy any of those particular slides in order to create your own board games. So that was another thought I forgot to mention that, I'm sorry. Here's another template. One of those boards in here came from this template, which has a whole lot of stuff related to the board game. That'll give you ideas about how to make your board game run. They tell you all about what's expected from the tasks based on where they land on the board. So all of the stuff is there. So I forgot to mention board games. Sorry about that. So in the dot storm, someone added game board, so use that to vote as well. Because once you're done, you get to vote. So vote on the ones that were your favorites. A lot of people like the tic tac toe, I can see. Under other, you can go here and click right here and add a comment if you have another idea that was not mentioned today. So whoever added game board, thank you for reminding me because I messed up. I forgot all about it. So we'll take a few minutes, let you explore those and vote and see if there's anything in other you need to add a comment. An idea of thank you, Caitlin. An idea of a type of board that we didn't even mention today. And Kalundra, did I answer your question? Say that again. Did I already answer that? Okay, cool. Thank you. So we've got a lot of people like playlists. A lot of people like the tic tac toe, which I really like as well. There's a nice mix going on here. All right, let's jump back and move on down to. Let's do a little bit more playtime. And also a chance to ask questions. You're welcome to unmute, or you can. Oh, and someone has a question up here. Those that use force boards, how do you grade the work? And I've got some ideas on that too. So please share under there, guys. If anybody's got some ways that you assess the kids when they're done, please share in the chat. And for playtime, if you've got a template that you really like, feel free to select one of those, make a copy, put it in your own location, and kind of take a few minutes. We'll put another 5 minutes or so to start. Like, you think about what you would do to build. What tasks would you put? What way would you lay it out? Go ahead and take a template and start playing around. We'll take another 5 minutes on the clock and let you have some time just to play for a moment. And feel free, if someone's got an answer to Darla's question in the chat, feel free to jump in there and ask and answer that. And shout out any other questions you might have. Because how to score them is important. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a few minutes too, once we've had some time to play. Anybody thinking about starting off with a choice board right as the kids come back? Maybe even on like your first day back or your first week back. Our school system starts back early. Our kids start on the 9th. I don't know if anybody else is in that same boat. So we're only a couple weeks away. Oh, I like the get to know you one. That's great. Yeah, I like to get to know, see what you did over the summer. So now you got tons of templates you can use if you want to give them a way to share that information. I like that idea. Let me look back through some of the places where we voted and shared. Looks like Tic Tac Toe definitely was a big favorite. Looking to see if there's any more questions. Okay, so there's no questions on the question document. I hope that means I'm answering everything you needed. But feel free to add them on there, and we can make sure they're answered for you so you can come back and look. All right. Had about a minute or so just to kind of keep playing. If you find you really want more time, we've got some time. If you find you want more time, we can do a few more minutes. Cool. Yeah, and there's a good information that Erica showed about right at the beginning of the pandemic using choice boards. This was a great thing that can still be done in. Oops, sorry about that. That can still be done um, in a remote situation. Most everybody, we're not having to worry about the remote thing anymore. There might be some people that are looking into it, but most everybody, I think we're done with having remote, except for situations where we might have a quarantine situation. But this is great stuff to have for the remote learning, to give them as choices to do in their home with their content, and even just something for fun. That good time to just have a get to have fun getting to know all your friends that you never got to see last year. It was great to have them interact by using choices to share things they got in their house, share things they're doing at home, all kinds of cool ways that people were using choice boards for the remote learning as well. Does anybody need a few more minutes or a moment or so, or do you feel like you're good? You can shout out in the chat if you're like, I would love more time. Just say it in the chat. And anything you may have explored and play with, you've got plenty of time, to kind of explore and play and use those templates between now and the times your school starts. And if you ever have questions for me, feel free to just give me a shout. My email, I'll show you the last slide. I'll have my email as well. Well, let's jump up and answer the question that Darla kind of shared. Let's talk a little about that. How do you assess? Because the important part about giving the kids the choices in the task is to see if they're progressing in their competency of the standards, which they call that competency-based progression. So if they're not doing well, what do we want to do? First of all, like assessing them, you could decide you want to use a rubric, or you could decide you're looking at the evidence that they completed the task, and that depends on the task that you do. You may have something where they hand it to you so you can see that they did it. You may have a situation where they're getting close and they just may need to do corrections, or they really aren't quite getting it, so you may have to have them either redo that one, maybe get with a partner to help them redo that one, or give them another activity to redo. One of our third grade teachers usually takes hers at the end of the month, end of the week, looks through to see what their struggles were so she can have a reteach, or have them do a redo by partners, or have them do corrections and bring it back to them. Um, and then and then the kids will be setting their goals at that point. Let's say you have them do corrections or you have them redo. At that point, ask them, how would you like to make sure that you understand this? And they could set their own goal as to how they go forward from there. If they did a good job, you say, okay, you did a good job with this. What would you like to do next? And see if they want to reach and find a goal for the next chart. Or you can say, we're not going to have you do the redo on this one. On the next choice board, what is your goal on that choice board to make sure you understand this multiplication or this part of poetry or so on. Lots of different ways. It all depends on you as the teacher. Um, I'm going to put a little message in the chat here and go ahead and say this. What ways do likes I'm going to put this in the chat. What ways would you like to assess or follow up from a choice board? Throw them in there, see if you've got some ideas to share, like I put for the other here. And I'll talk about the right side in a second. Let's see if anybody's got some thoughts to add on ways you like to assess, or would you follow up after a choice board? Yeah, I like the peer review. That's what a lot of times when the kids would do the redo, that's where we would do the peer, join them together. Yeah, I like the corrections too. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I like that. What everybody's talking about the peer review. That's such an important thing. We would do all kinds of activities where we had the kids, and even in the choice board, you can say with a partner. One of the choice boards tasks we had up there with the math one was, you do this with a partner. Take the manipulatives, demonstrate this with a video, and share the video of how you demonstrate it. And then we would find a way to share that video with everybody so that everybody saw what the kids demonstrated. And when you do pathways where the kids break out into different tasks to do that are different content, having them reteach it to everybody and show what they learned so everybody gets all of the content information, even though they focused on one area for their investigation. Cynthia, those are great tasks to actually put on choice boards too. Yeah, Kim, those are great ideas as well. Kindies and firsts. And so much of this kind of choice board can be based on stations or centers, especially and they kind of think that stations and centers are such lower grades, but I've seen a lot of third and fourth use them, and I've seen high school do them. It's just a different way you do stations. The one where I saw all the science kids moving around the room was a high school class. So it doesn't stations aren't just for littles anymore. It's just about the way you display them. Yeah, and so Cynthia, what grade area are you in?
I teach 7th grade science,
Okay.
and we do many things in stations. We'll do little mini experiments or little mini activities about temperature, pressure, just all kinds. We look at all the different types of protists, compare and contrast plant animal cells, you name it, but we just do little stations, and one might have a reading, or one might have a microscope, or one might have a diagram or something to draw or complete.
That's
And
great.
they love them because you move. I mean, it's just old school. I'm an old teacher, so it's old school. We've done these forever, and it's so funny when I hear people saying, do stations now, like it's some new thing.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And like I love that you say you're old school. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the book Bold School. That is all
No.
about taking our old school pedagogy wisdom and bringing in some of our newfangled technologies that we can use with it. So there's nothing wrong with being old school and bringing in something new to blend right there with it. So that's great. And with your kind of idea, you can do all kinds of creative choice with that. It's almost like kind of like a playlist almost, but they can do it in the order they want to. And then, like I said, you still have the must-haves in there if you needed to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see this, and you can just do these kind of things. This is like a shell of something you can do any way, any style with anyone.
Mhm.
On the right side of this slide, I mentioned a little bit about, consider Bold School is the name of the book. The author's name is Weston Keishner. Let me just put it in here. Oh, it's not Broad School, Bold. I think I'm spelling his name right, but if you kind of start typing that, he'll pop up. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. That's kind of what we're trying to make our digital learning and blended learning philosophy for our school this year, is kind of following some of that model. But he's like kind of like my new hero these days. But yeah, on the right hand side of this slide, I mentioned like consider a display for the completed task, like a chart or a game, like a gamification thing that you keep up on your wall, a game board for when the kids finish things, a standards board. You can maybe do it by standards or by tasks, or have a game board that shows the tasks, and keep that up in the room so as the children finish their tasks, they get a little spot. I did it with a chart with my students for tasks they had to complete within an activity. And as they got them done, they got a check, and they could see, and they could also glimpse when they came in to remind them of what they still hadn't quite gotten yet. Um,
It's like the old school, put the stars on, like
it
the little
really is. It's
stars.
like a star chart, but oh, you can give
Yeah.
it all kinds of flair you want. And
Yeah.
also points. I also did points. Like when the kids finished their thing, we had a house philosophy in our school, kind of like Harry Potter houses or Ron Clark's houses. Ours were based on Ron Clark, so students were all in houses, and the houses had their different colors. So I had all these little pieces that were based on the color. So when they finished it, they got a point for a certain amount that they got completed, or a standard they got completed, or something, and it would go in our bucket with all the points, kind of like they did with Potter, with all the gems falling in the little things. And so the more, there were incentives within my classroom for the house that got the most points at the end of each quarter. So you can do a point system as well, all kinds of ways. You may got any other thoughts on how might you play? I'll add that question in there too. So if you're looking at this transcript later, you'll know what everybody was answering. And actually, yeah, I have not read Breaking Bold yet. I really need to see that. Like I say, he's my hero. So yeah, throw up there if you've got an idea of how you might display that the students have completed their tasks. Something different we hadn't mentioned here. Yeah, we had fun with the points because it wrapped around into everything that our school did based on the houses, and we all a lot of teachers gave points for things. And that was in the school I was in previous to where I am now. We really want to put a house philosophy in here as well. We were just about ready to start putting it together, and then COVID hit. We didn't get to have our school year start the way we wanted it last year, so we didn't get to do the houses. Okay, feel free to continue adding that into the chat. Let me jump over here to one more sharing page. So on the last column on the Padlet, share an idea for a choice board you explored today. You might have started it already, or that you want to put together. Share the subject or topic or content. Oh, I love the meter reader gauge, kind of like that, like the blood drive gauge things, or temperature gauge. Um, Also, in this little sharing question, share your subject or topic or content, how the students are going to be able to choose their task, and how you might differentiate. And if you started it and you want to share the link, feel free. So on the Padlet again, feel free on this last column to share that information. This is some people are already starting to put things like Spanish, Tic Tac Toe for poetry. Yeah, so kind of spend a few moments in there sharing some ideas of how you might design your choice board and the content area you would like to cover in that. or content areas. Sometimes you may have a couple, like we started that one with math that covered the area and the multiplication because we knew they kind of related and they really needed area multiplication. Those were big places. Let me jump over here to the Padlet for a second. Cool, getting some ideas. So this Padlet will be up with everybody's ideas they're sharing as well. We'll take a minute or so more, let you guys do that, and then we can kind of, we're at that point of the wrap up. I just noticed Kim's idea for the getting the teacher signature and getting a percentage based on the signature for their task. Just a minute more. And feel free to shout out if you have any other questions, if there's any on the question document right now. No. Feel free to add your questions there. I'll check it periodically. Okay, so we're going to kind of wrap up here. I think that covers most everything. Never want to throw too much at you. There's a lot to look at today. If you found one thing that you got excited about that you can take back with you and get ready for the school year to start, I'm excited. So that was my goal. And so here again is my information email if you need anything. And my Twitter account. I've been bad about Twitter, like I said. And someone asked if we could access the recordings. I think they're going to share you information. We are supposed to drop our recordings into a folder, and they're going to be sharing with you how to access that folder, I believe, so you can get the recordings for everything. And of course, you've got the link to the slideshow right here. So anytime you need to go back to the slideshow, everything is here. So yeah, I so enjoyed. I'm so glad you guys came. So hopefully you found something you liked, and thank you for joining today. I'm going to jump over to this last slide and move this little square over so you can, if you've got your app, you can use the scanner to do that, or there's a link here that should take you to the alternate attendance form in case for some reason the code's not working. And we're in that 5 minutes where every session is trying to access this right now. Yesterday it started hanging up and wouldn't let everybody in. So if that's happening, I say maybe wait a little while and try it again and see if it could just be there's a lot of traffic. But if you're having struggles, that might be what you need. And I'm going to jump here for just a second. Last slide, please take a moment and go to the last slide and do the feedback form as well. So we'll just kind of hang here for 5 more minutes and let you have time to work on that as well. So that feedback form on the last slide, slide 22, and this slide, I'll leave the code up so you can scan it. And if you've got it on your computer, you can scan it as well. If you can't, if the green square is still there, just hit refresh on your browser and it should disappear. Thank you all for your kind words. I so enjoyed being able to share this with you.